All right, we're back with another update on the Indian, sort of. As you saw in the last video, the battery died, and so I called the dealership, and the bike is going back to the dealership for a couple days. Now, using the trickle charger is a minor inconvenience, but thankfully we should have a new battery, or they'll figure out what the hell's going on here shortly. But at least the Challenger has their fancy plug-in in the dash, so then we'll just be able to plug it in and hopefully have some battery. The charger says that it is solid red. Solid red means that it's charging, so we're just gonna let that chill for a little bit. We'll come check it here in a little bit and see if the thing will start. Hopefully it'll start. If not, then we probably got bigger issues, but who knows. Now at this time, it's too late to take it there today, so I'm gonna do it tomorrow. But I actually have an event. I'm doing event coverage, so it's gonna have to happen at some point tomorrow, but we'll see. So as you can see, we got the Indian back. Thank God. It actually wasn't that big of a deal, but we'll get into that. So the bike went back to Indian again after the battery depleted itself after about 2 or 3 days of sitting just in the garage. And they did all of their tests, and the guys over at iMotorsports in St. Pete, they're awesome. They did a fantastic job of making sure everything was good and doing all the tests that they had to do and all that stuff. So the big issue with the bike again is it was just sitting in the garage for a couple days, and the battery was depleting to the point where the bike wouldn't start, which is a big issue, it's a big problem. So in the fact that I have the bike under warranty and the wiring harness was just replaced, I wanted to make sure that there was no further issues. So I just took the bike back to iMotorsports. That way they could take a look at it and tell me exactly what was going on with the bike. So the bike was actually there for just a couple of days. Not too long at all, not a big deal. I have the bike back for the weekend, which is fantastic. And what they tested for was they did a draw test. They let the bike sit for, whatever, overnight, however long they had to. They just kind of kept an eye on the voltage of the battery without starting it to see if there's any type of draw. They did that with the key fob next to it and with the key fob away from the bike. At the end of the day, what I think happened is a couple things. A, my bike sits in the garage, which sure it's covered away from the sun, but we're in Florida. My garage is like 120 degrees probably. In the peak of the day, so it's not super comfortable in there. And then on top of that, I had the key fob just sitting in the little wing here, in that little pocket that we put our key fobs in. And I typically just let the key fob live in there. I never really thought anything of it. And a lot of you guys actually commented on the last video talking about the key fob, which is honestly something that I never even thought about. But after talking to the tech, and the tech was awesome, he actually explained a lot of things to me that I never really thought about before. Because these bikes are all electronic based anymore, everything. It's kind of ridiculous. And one of those electronic components happens to be the key fob, which is there to help you start the bike, and the security system. And one thing that never even crossed my mind is that if that key fob is close enough to the bike, it's constantly communicating and it's checking the security system and all that stuff, whatever. So it's just one more thing that the bike is doing while you're not even riding the bike. So long story short, we kind of figured that that's what's drawing power out of the bike. In fact, in their test, they saw a lower voltage reading on the battery after leaving the key fob in the bike overnight. And the way he explained it is that they're measuring it from a percentage standpoint rather than just a voltage. So just for easy math, let's say it went from a 12 to an 11.5. If you look at that number, it's not a whole lot, but if you turn that into a percentage, that's a pretty substantial drop in voltage when it comes to a motorcycle battery, or any battery in general. Now, I could be completely butchering his explanation of it, but that's my understanding to it for the most part. So, long story short, moving forward, I'm going to take the key fob out of the bike and store it at least 6 feet away from the bike, which is going to be with the rest of my keys for my vehicles, and that shouldn't be an issue at all. I just got to remember to do it. and I have to remember to grab the key when I go to start the bike. So as you can see, the bike is running amazing and it sounds good, but we're gonna get to that here in a minute. Now most people, like myself, we open this up, we throw our key fob in there, and usually that's fine. The issue that I personally run into is that I've got this side, which usually has my phone in it. This side has extra glasses or whatever the case it is, and the problem that I run into is that the key fob kind of gets stuck in there and you can't get it out. So I'm gonna probably stop using that, and I'm gonna actually make something for the saddlebag because we have all this extra room. So I really wanna help with the organization of this to begin with for all the registration and all that stuff, but I'm probably gonna make some kind of a little holder for the key fob inside the side here. Or if you guys already have a solution for something like this, I would like to hear what you've done and I'll probably mimic it, or I'm just gonna engineer my own. Now, to touch base on why it sounds so good. Now, I asked you guys in the last video for suggestions for exhaust systems and all of that stuff. Well, if you saw the last video, you know that these pipes here, these slip-ons were already here. To be honest with you, I do not know the brand. They look okay to me and they're already there. So in order to make the bike sound better, we just cut this thing out. Now this is the catalytic converter that comes in the Indian Challenger. This thing is big, it's bulky, it's annoying, it makes your bike quiet. It does do a fantastic job of cutting down on the fumes that are coming out of your exhaust. Now I am curious to see what this thing feels like in the long term because this bike is very, very well balanced. The center of gravity is in a perfect spot. It makes this bike extremely nimble. It's very easy to throw around and this and that. Now, I know it's not a lot of weight. I don't have scales to properly weigh it, but the cat weighs a good amount. And I'd be curious to know somebody who really, really rides, like track style rides this bike, and I would like to know whether or not that cat pulling that weight off the bottom of the bike changes the way the bike feels in a track type setting. I know a lot of people probably aren't track riding these things, even though we have the king of the baggers and all that stuff now and all that good stuff. But regardless, it would be interesting to know if there's really that big of a difference. I personally haven't noticed a difference, and I don't really ride that hard on this bike, so I don't know if I would notice a difference, but the thing is definitely a little bulky. Now, I was gonna do a full system, but I decided to save a little bit of money and just do the cat delete. We already have the slip-ons. I'm not trying to get a bunch of power out of this thing. I just want it to sound good. So that's why I ended up doing just the cat delete. Now, will I decide to do something more in the future? Who knows? Possible. Who knows? I know you guys could hear the bike a little bit in this video, but I'm gonna do a separate video on this exact setup, and this is gonna be something that you're gonna be able to get directly from your dealer, and I want you guys to know what it sounds like. So I'm gonna mic the bike up and ride and put it under a load and kind of give you guys a real life sound clip, the best that I can through the speakers of our phones and computers and all that, and give you guys an idea of what it sounds like. We're gonna do that in a full other video. Remember I was saying how hot my garage is? I don't know if you can tell, but I'm dripping. I'm wet. I'm sweat wet. Now, as far as taking this bike further, I've got one other thing lined up that we're gonna be doing here shortly, and that is doing a custom dyno tune on the bike. Now, my goal is not to get all the power in the world. I don't need all the power in the world on this bike. Not yet anyway. Right now, it's just gonna be, I just wanna smooth it out. Now, granted, even with the cat delete, the bike still runs amazing. Honestly, I don't really feel any hesitation or anything like that. Surprisingly, I thought it would be much worse, but it actually rides just like it did before. Everything's good. The only reason I'm gonna do a dyno tune, well actually there's a couple reasons I'm gonna do the dyno tune. I'm gonna do a dyno tune over at Proven Power. Well, I'm not gonna do it, Eric's gonna do it because he's the master tuner over there. So we're gonna put it on his dyno. We're gonna dyno tune it, which is gonna be awesome because we're gonna be able to film the entire process and you're gonna be able to see some good results. So we're gonna play around with this platform and see what kind of power it can actually produce. And that's kind of the main purpose of it. It's just it's a platform to play with. But my main thing with wanting to get it tuned is, yes, we just took the cat out, so it's gonna run just a little bit different. I'm aiming more towards efficiency, right? So you take out the cat, you have some D-cell pops and stuff like that, but the D-cell pops that I'm getting don't sound like performance D-cell pops, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I hope that resonates with somebody, because when I was a kid, I had my trucks and I would just cut the exhaust off. That was just why not? I just want it to be loud. But back then I thought it sounded amazing, and then the older I got and kids were still doing it, I realized that it doesn't. It sounds terrible. So the pops that you're hearing, it just sounds like it's misfiring. It's not good. Now this bike doesn't do it a lot, but if I go and just give it all hell and then let off, or you know, downshift, and then, you know, through all that stuff, you get that decel pop, but it's not like a healthy one. So that's the update on the Indian. I'm glad to have it back, and I love the bike. So anyway, we've got a lot of updates coming, a lot of fun things, a lot more fun things than what it's been so far. So can't wait to take you guys along for the ride, and we'll see you in the next one.